Hello and welcome back to Soft Spoken Storytime, episode 61. SCP-032, Brother's Bride. Item number SCP-032, Object Class Euclid, Special Containment Procedures. SCP-032 is to be housed in Automated Containment Unit 535/15. Direct contact with SCP-032 is to be restricted to research-relevant tasks only. Interviews, if deemed necessary, are to be carried out using the unit's remote communication array. While SCP-032's presence is not directly harmful to the human body, exposure to it is to be limited to periods of 12 hours or less due to its adverse effects on most beneficial microorganisms. SCP-032 is not to be exposed to any biological material not refined or otherwise tempered by humanity, with an emphasis on non-human living entities. For full list of classifications, see document 032-RCL. SCP-032 neither requires nor requested substances or other forms of comfort. Description: SCP-032 is a Type F, imperfect external resemblance, internally inconsistent, human, simulacrum, of currently unknown origins. It is composed of an outer shell of pigmented silicone, 5.5 mm thick, and various plastic fiber polymers, with the outward appearance of a Caucasian woman nearing the third decade of life. SCP-032's interior is composed entirely of liquid refined oil, lacking any skeletal or muscle structure. Despite this, SCP-032 is capable of locomotion and speech. SCP-032 is capable of maintaining the illusion of humanity at a moderate distance, but becomes unconvincing at a closer range, causing mild discomfort in most observers. This effect has been deemed non-anomalous. Despite apparently possessing fully realized cognitive abilities, SCP-032 claims that it is not sapient, acting only as an intermediary instrument of its creators. The Foundation has not been able to verify or refute this claim as of yet. SCP-032 possesses extreme adverse effects to any biological entity in its close vicinity not created, willfully influenced, manipulated by, or similarly relating to humanity. While the exact nature of these effects varies, SCP-032's presence inevitably causes severe and irreparable damage to the ability of any living organism to exchange and/or use energy. Wild flora loses its ability to photosynthesize or otherwise produce or consume energy. Fauna, the use of its respiratory and digestive system, etc. This applies to microorganisms as well, though SCP-032's effects seem to favor damage to their reproductive systems instead. It is hypothesized that the symbiotic relation some microorganisms have to humanity is the reason for this discrepancy. SCP-032 was discovered sitting on the doorstep of the inner compound of Foundation Site Redacted, near Redacted, Slovakia. When questioned by Foundation security personnel, SCP-032 explained its anomalous effects and claimed it was there to be stored. Surveillance footage show no record of the time of its arrival, and it is not yet known how SCP-032 came to know Site Redacted's location or approach it without being spotted. When asked for its reason for seeking Foundation custody, SCP-032 replied that it was there at the command of its creators, seeking indefinite storage until claimed. Addendum. Interview 032-A. Note: this interview was recorded near the time of SCP-032's initial containment by Dr. Alexander Kovac, Site Redacted resident psychologist, following its initial examination by Site Security. Begin log. Dr. Kovac. Before we begin, there's something I feel I should ask you, since security so often neglects doing so. It's not strictly conforming to protocol, but I find it tends to make things easier. SCP-032. I was instructed to cooperate. Good, very good. Tell me then, what is your name? I don't have one. People have names. I'm not one. Is that so? What did your so-called creators call you then? They didn't. Surely they had to refer to you somehow. I'm a vessel of their will, and nothing else. They never needed to call. They never will. In that case, would you mind if I refer to you as SCP-032? I was instructed to cooperate. So you said. Tell me then, what is the purpose of your coming here? I'm to be stored here until collected. Security told me that much, but why here, and collected by whom? Collected by the ones they wish to torment, and stored here because, in finding me here, he will suffer further. Is that so? Is that person you refer to part of this organization, then? Do your creators bear some grudge towards a particular operative? He's not one of you, merely a one-time sympathizer of sorts. He believes you tried to help him once, and if he is forced here, if he finds me here, you will die. That will hurt him. They have no interest in any of you or your organization. You are here as a tool, just as I am. Who is this man, then? What did he do to earn this sort of treatment from your creators? He did not know his place, won when he should have lost, was proud when he should have been humbled, was wasteful with gifts too precious for abuse. And you are here as punishment. He was already punished, severely, forced away from kin and kind, to endlessly wander, to destroy against his will, to poison humanity by his very presence. Eternal solitude, flavored by ceaseless guilt. A masterwork of torment, they say. If that's the case, why are you here? Because even in this existence, there is the occasional moment of solace. At times, he may yet look to the world and see things he will not destroy. Look to nature and feel warm wonder, and bask in the false light of ancient, moldy memories. It keeps him sane, gives him hope. That will not serve, hence my presence. I am to be his last undoing, a hastening to the end of reason. And how will your presence do that? Are you meant to deceive him in some way? Is that why you look the way you do? In a manner of speaking. Eventually, his wanderings will lead him here, to me, in a day or a month or a century, and he will recognize me, and see what they think of his precious memories, how they mock him. He'll understand that because of his actions, she is forever beyond his grasp, and all that remains to him is me, a simulacrum as artificial as his hope. When he finds me, I will attach myself to him, and he will watch the mockery of his memories destroy his last source of solace. And that will be that. You said he will recognize you. Why? I used to be his wife. End log. Interview 032B. Note: this interview was held 6 months following SCP-032's initial containment, as a part of a series of interviews meant to evaluate SCP-032's cognitive abilities and personality, or lack thereof. Begin log. I hate her. Well, that's certainly a way to start an interview. Care to elaborate? The one I was made to look like, my mold. I hate her. An interesting sentiment for you to have, considering your repeated assurance that you possess no consciousness or feelings of your own. I don't. I hate her because they want me to. It serves their purpose. How do you get that impression? The first thing they did after creating me was to show her to me. It's not something they often do. I don't follow. Interfere with those who passed beyond their halls. They might be vengeful, spiteful, even cruel, but they take their duties very seriously. Just to show her to me, to risk disturbing her final rest. They wouldn't do that without a purpose. And she was beautiful, so peaceful, serene, whole. Even gone, even dead, I could see the essence of who she used to be, of who she still was, and forever will be. Her soul. They told me she didn't get to live for all that long. But when she lived, she was herself. She was alive. And so I hated her. Do you know what it feels like to be made as a mockery? In every line of that smooth, silent face, I saw a twisted reflection in my own. Fragrant skin to molded plastic. Soft hair to synthetic fiber, blood to oil, soul to nothing at all. Excuse me if this sounds presumptuous, but I can't imagine feelings like this coming from anywhere but yourself. Can't you see? This is all a part of their plan. When he finds me, when he sees what the brothers created just to punish him further, he'll go mad. Because of what they did to the memory of his wife. Not only that, because he'll see me. He'll see how much I hate her, and how much I hate myself for not being her. Hate being here at all. And then what? Then a final realization. And what would that be? He never won. End log. SCP-033. The missing number. Item number SCP-033. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-033 should be inscribed on any single sheet of irregularly shaped and handcrafted paper, papyrus, canvas, or vellum when not involved in active observation or study. The dimensions of the paper-like product should have no parallel borders, no right angles, and no sides length should be equal to any other. 033 safe dimensions. When contained in this manner, the paper-like product should be secured in a locked, non-combination storage vault at least 30 meters from any computing or recording device. Logs for checkout or check-in of SCP-033 should be filled out at the minimum safe distance of 30 meters to avoid possible contamination of the paper product or electronic device the log is kept in. When removed for study, SCP-033 can be copied to a white/chalkboard with 033 safe dimensions by Class D staff. Upon transfer to the white/chalkboard, the paper-like product that had contained SCP-033 should be incinerated. Observation and study should take place in a secured conference room at least 30 meters from any computing or recording device for the maximum 2,560-second viewing window. All observations or notes should be made on 033 safe materials. Under no circumstances should any notes regarding SCP-033 leave the storage facility or be input into a computing or recording device. At precisely 2,000 seconds of viewing, research must stop, and SCP-033 should be transferred to a new 033 safe paper-like product and returned to storage by Class D staff. The white/chalkboard utilized in research must be incinerated as soon as possible after the transfer is complete, regardless of whether SCP-033 has faded naturally from its surface at 2,560 seconds. Whether SCP-033 safe procedures halt or merely slow the deleterious effects of SCP-033 is unknown. It is theorized the irregular borders and handcrafting by mathematically unpredictable humans somehow disrupt the logic which allows SCP-033 to function. Description: SCP-033 appears as a field of complex mathematical symbols, ranging from simple layman-identifiable representations to those only interpretable by highly trained mathematicians. The sum of the symbols is equal to a previously unknown integer, designated theta prime by Professor Hutchinson, of intermediate value between redacted and redacted. As all modern mathematical calculations are performed lacking the knowledge or use of SCP-033, its introduction into any system organized without it begins eroding the numerical and eventually structural integrity of said system. This effect extends to SCP-033's transfer to any paper-like, defined as paper, vellum, papyrus, canvas, surface, not possessing 033 safe dimensions, or any computing or recording device it is input into. If inscribed on any other material, SCP-033 fades into unintelligibility in precisely 2,560 seconds. In addition, SCP-033 has shown an ability to leap from an 033 safe material to a manufactured or electronic material, which it can destabilize in at least one instance. Incident Report 033-D. Requiring the institution of a 30-meter safe distance for electronic devices and paper-like products without 033 safe dimensions. There is currently no 033 safe specification for electronic storage. Redacted of the redacted operational research projects involving SCP-033 are dedicated to finding such a method for electronic storage. Redacted operational research projects are dedicated to the application of SCP-033 as a neutralizing factor for potentially hostile, machine logic-based SCP objects. Clarifying commentary from Prof. Hutchinson follows for non-specialist staff in Document 033-A. Effects may be reviewed in Document 033-Q. Document 033-A. Debriefing of Prof. Hutchinson after first observation. Transcript edited for clarity. Prof. Hutchinson. Every child knows that 2 + 2 is 4. The solid mathematical certainty of numerical order and value is the basis for all logic-based systems. We know that after 2 comes 3, and after 3 comes 4. What this formula proves is that we missed a number somewhere. Imagine if all our technology was based on the belief that after 4 came 6. We simply didn't know or conceive of 5. That is, in essence, what this formula proves. We missed a number. I can't tell you why the handcrafted vellum works best. I can only surmise that it displaces mathematical predictability in 2 ways. 1. The irregularity of the crafting process due to human error serves to eliminate any traces of regularity that would be found in a machine-created product. 2. The irregular borders seem to confuse it somehow, as if it gets locked up looking for a pattern to identify and use as an escape hatch. I'll tell you this, though. I don't think it should be left on anything longer than a few days. It will find a pattern eventually. I don't think it destroys anything. I think it tries integrating itself into our system, and our system can't hold it. It's like trying to cram another book into a full bookshelf. If you get a hammer, you can get it in there, but the whole shelf bursts eventually. If it gets out into the internet, we will potentially experience a full IT infrastructure collapse within hours. Document 033-Q. Test results. Trial 033 Delta 5. SCP-033 inscribed into a single sheet of standard 8.5 by 11 inch manufactured white copy paper, hereafter X1. A second sheet of identical paper, hereafter X2, placed 30 centimeters away. 80 seconds. Symbols consistent with the content of SCP-033 begin appearing on X2. X1 unchanged. 160 seconds. Full content of SCP-033's formulae appear on the surface of X2. X1 unchanged. 320 seconds. X1 and X2 both appear wet, symbols still visible. 640 seconds. X1 is now roughly 1 part apparently water and 5 parts pulp-like substance, still filling an 8.5 by 11 inch flat plane. Symbols become unintelligible. X2 still appears wet. Symbols visible. 1,280 seconds. X1 no longer visible at all. Liquid part appears to have evaporated. Pulp-like substance apparently sublimated. X2 now roughly 1 part liquid and 5 parts pulp-like substance, still filling an 8.5 by 11 inch flat plane. Symbols unintelligible. 2,560 seconds. X2 no longer visible at all. Liquid part appears to have evaporated. Pulp-like substance apparently sublimated. SCP-034 Obsidian Ritual Knife. Item number SCP-034. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-034 is to be kept in a secure room with access granted only to Level 4 personnel. SCP-034 itself will be kept in a locked case that is under 24-hour surveillance. When not in lab conditions, SCP-034's protective sheath cannot be removed under any circumstances. Any personnel in contact with SCP-034 must be placed under a 24-hour observation period until their identities can be confirmed. Description: SCP-034 is a primitive knife constructed out of pure obsidian. Tests reveal that SCP-034 is approximately 1,000 years old. Despite its crude method of construction and age, SCP-034 is still incredibly sharp and requires no maintenance to retain its edge. Expert analysis hypothesizes that SCP-034 may be of South American origin, and that it may have been used in Native American rituals. Several accounts from Spanish conquistadors exploring the redacted region support this hypothesis, with detailed writings on how redacted priests would flay their victims alive with similar knives, and wear their skins as a tribute to their gods. SCP-034 has the ability to allow its bearer to take on the appearance of another individual. If SCP-034 is used to cut a piece of flesh from a living individual, and that piece of flesh is placed against the skin of another individual, the second individual would take on not only the appearance, but all physical characteristics of the first individual. Testing has shown that the minimum amount of skin required can be as little as 1 square centimeter. However, testing has also revealed that the amount of time the transformation lasts is directly proportional to the amount of flesh used. The ratio of time the transformation lasts to flesh used has been measured at approximately 1 hour for every square centimeter used. Once the time limit has passed, the affected individual will revert to their original form. Analysis of SCP-034's ability shows that its method of mimicking another individual is nearly flawless. Not only does SCP-034 change its bearer's physical appearance, but their actual physical attributes as well, including height, weight, muscle mass, bone density, hair growth, eyesight, strength, physical medical conditions, and even DNA. The only physical traits that are not carried over in the transformation process are wounds caused by SCP-034 itself. Subjects still retain their original personality and memories while transformed, even though the process is nearly instantaneous, taking only a few seconds. Human test subjects have described the transformation process as extremely painful. Subjects also may suffer psychological trauma depending on the extent of their physical transformation. Side effects are especially serious if the subject takes on the appearance of a person with differing gender or with wildly different physical attributes. However, in order to function properly, the individuals who have their flesh cut off by SCP-034 must still be biologically alive to maintain the transformation. Should the individual whose identity has been stolen expire, the effect immediately wears off. Further details may be found in a lab report 034-A. Also, SCP-034 only appears to work on human subjects. Cross-species experiments with SCP-034 have resulted in data expunged. SCP-034 came into Foundation possession when an imposter, disguised as Dr. Redacted, attempted to infiltrate Site Redacted. The imposter was apprehended when authorities discovered the real Dr. Redacted, tied up in his home with a large portion of his right arm skinned. Further details may be found in Post-Interrogation Report 2211. Lab Report 034-A. We've decided to test several scenarios dealing with the limits of SCP-034's capabilities. Test 1. Sample taken from deceased human cadaver and applied to subject D452. There is no observable effect. Test 2. Sample taken from D532 and applied to D452. D452 successfully mimics D532's appearance. Upon termination of D532, D452 immediately reverts back to original form. Test 3. Sample taken from D433 while under a medically induced coma and applied to subject D452. D452 successfully mimics D433's appearance and manages to maintain the transformation and consciousness. Test 4. Sample taken from a brain-dead medical patient who suffered a massive brain hemorrhage and applied to D452. D452 successfully mimics the patient's appearance, but immediately loses consciousness upon transformation. D452 does not regain consciousness until the transformation period expires. D452 retains no memory of the event. Test 5. Sample taken from D625 who suffered a broken arm due to a confrontation with security staff. D452 successfully mimics D625's appearance, including the broken arm. D452's broken arm is remended when the transformation period expires. Test 6. Sample taken from a terminally ill medical patient and applied to D452. The patient's terminal illness was caused by an inherent genetic defect. D452 successfully mimics the patient's appearance as well as the patient's illness. Both the terminally ill patient and D452 expire at the same time, after which D452 reverts back to original form. Test 7. Sample taken from a chimpanzee and applied to D466. D466 experiences rapid growth of hair across their entire body. There are otherwise no other significant physical or physiological changes. Body hair disappears when the transformation period expires. Test 8. Sample taken from an Atlantic salmon and applied to D466. There is no observable effect. Test 9. Under O5 authorization, a sample taken from SCP redacted is applied to D466. D466 exhibits extremely adverse reaction upon transformation and data expunged, resulting in significant damage to testing environment, multiple injuries among test and security staff, and the death of D466. Testing of anomalous humanoids with SCP-034 is suspended indefinitely. Post-interrogation report 211. As per standard operating procedure, we first attempted to interrogate the prisoner via non-violent and non-invasive means. However, when such methods proved ineffective, we began to implement conventional interrogation techniques. While partially successful, we deemed it necessary to use SCP redacted, SCP redacted, SCP redacted, and SCP redacted. We managed to learn the following facts. The prisoner had extensive knowledge on the existence of the Foundation and its inner workings. The prisoner had extensive knowledge on other SCP-related agencies and groups. The prisoner was not acting under any official capacity from any government agency. The prisoner obtained SCP-034 and instructions on its operation from an unknown benefactor. The prisoner was given very specific instructions to infiltrate Site Redacted and maintain his position until further notice. The prisoner had enough samples of Dr. Redacted to stay within Site Redacted for redacted days. Regrettably, the prisoner did not survive interrogation. Agent Redacted.